One of my absolute favourite types of horror is the type of horror that isn't solely based on totally terrifying monsters or spooky ghosts. It's the type that's more about the nature of reality itself and the unknown. Some call this Lovecraftian horror, and some call this cosmic horror, but I like to think of this more as philosophical horror, as almost all cosmic horror I've seen tends to have some sort of deeper philosophical meaning or question behind it. A good example of what I see as philosophical horror is the backrooms. You may wonder how the backrooms could be seen as philosophical, but it's more of a matter of perspective. If you bear with me, I will explain what I mean soon. The concept of the backrooms was supposedly first introduced on the most respected and reputable pocket of the internet, 4chan. A post in 2019 showed what is said to be the first ever post about the backrooms, and the post blew up. If you're not careful and you no-clip out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in the backrooms, where it's nothing but stink of old moist carpet. The madness and mono yellow, the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum hum buzz, and approximately 600 million miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. The question of whether this is the original backrooms post or not is a debated topic. Some people claim the image has been circulating the internet for over a decade, and that too comes from an extremely reputable source.
Nice argument, Senator. Why don't you back it up with a source?
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
However, after months of super gigachad black hat mainframe network hacking, I finally discovered this image, hidden in the deepest FBI hidden files at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. This screenshot shows that the original backrooms image had been posted under a 4chan thread over a year before the supposed original post. So who knows? At this point I decided to leave it as a mystery in order to avoid becoming obsessed with the question and spending the next 3 months down a rabbit hole instead of actually working on this video. So this is said to be how the backrooms started. What started as a couple of sentences posted on 4chan soon became a huge fictional universe. The backrooms evolved into hundreds of categorized levels with different entities, concepts and stories behind them, but one thing stayed the same. And that's the concept of a place that seems to exist outside of what we know. A place that a person can randomly no-clip into at any given moment. For anyone that doesn't know, no-clipping in simple terms is basically phasing through something. It's a term that comes from video games. You can use a command called no-clip in certain games that disables collision, causing you to be able to float through things like walls, floors and ceilings. It is believed by many that the concept of the backrooms is what led to the internet's new hottest topic and my favourite little subgenre of horror, liminal spaces. Although some people don't consider liminal spaces to be horror, I personally do. I know many just consider it as a quirky aesthetic, but I really do see it as an amazingly creepy, yet somewhat philosophical type of horror. You see, the agreed upon meaning of a liminal space, put simply, is an area of transition. A place between what was and what's next. When you start looking into the objective meaning of liminality though, it gets very complicated very quick. But when it comes to the liminal space context, it seems to be pretty subjective. So for the sake of convenience, I'm going to explain how I myself subjectively interpret liminal spaces. I just want to say real quick that this video does go into some pretty outlandish concepts and topics. Everything I say from now on is my own subjective opinion. I don't claim to be any sort of philosopher or professional. I'm simply putting forward my thoughts about this topic that I am fairly passionate about. I'm not stating these are facts. They are my subjective opinions. I hope you enjoy. For me, the idea of liminal spaces in the real world is what going out of bounds is on video games. You know, when you manage to get out of bounds and you'd find whole areas that are just there. Almost like you found an area that you're not supposed to be able to access and has never been accessed. An environment that has the fundamental objects and scenery of any other, but isn't quite finished, as nobody is supposed to be there anyway. When I see some of these liminal space images, they really do have a strange effect on me. It's hard to explain, but they have me questioning the idea of whether there is some sort of fourth dimension out there. Another place that mimics our own. An area that's in between the past and the present, that we could slip into at any moment? Could it be that there really exists glitches in the Matrix where people do somehow phase into another place? It would be a pretty good explanation for things like the missing 411 phenomenon, where people in certain specific hotspots throughout the world just vanish under really mysterious and bizarre circumstances. You may be asking yourself, why on earth is this dude going so in depth about his personal interpretation of liminal spaces to me? Why should I care? And to that, I say, I don't know. Maybe it's my tinfoil hat affecting my brain. Anyway, moving on. Due to my undying love for these liminal spaces and the feeling they create, I sought out to find a decent liminal space video game, and that's when I found the most groundbreaking game that absolutely revolutionised horror games and changed the way we see gaming as a whole. Shrek in the Backrooms. Nah, I'm joking. I did find one though. I found a game that really does perfectly capture that liminal space backrooms vibe. That game is this game. This game is an enigma. As a huge fan of horror games, I am so used to the source of fear coming from things like zombies, ghosts, demons, mutants, and other entities. But this game changes that. There is no strong enemy stalking you, attacking you or chasing you. There is no sudden need to react to something that causes you to panic. There is no need to do anything. You're just there. You start out in a huge open landscape, somewhat reminiscent of the classic Windows XP background. This is a pretty smart move on the developer's part, invoking a feeling of familiarity for most people straight from the get-go. I see a sign reading "Welcome to Anemoiapolis." I then find some sort of generator. There's a long wire coming from it, so I follow it. This feels like such a surreal moment, following an absurdly long wire across a nostalgic and strange landscape. I find some sort of access panel that the wire leads to. I go to interact with the access panel and I fall. I land in a deep, dark swimming pool. After rising above the water, I see the utter size of the room I'm in. The ceiling is so high up and everything in the room seems to be abnormally large. It makes me feel tiny. The murky yellow light shines down from above, giving the room a strange yellow hue. Where is this place? This does not look like any regular swimming pool. What is it doing all the way down here? How did I even survive the fall? There's another access panel. I use it and it releases some stairs up to the huge diving board. This isn't just a regular diving board though. If you interact with the cogs, it extends the board the opposite way, bridging the gap between the apparatus and the next area. I jump over the barrier, jump across the gap, and I'm met with a surreal looking hallway. The floor, walls and ceiling are a strange orange fleshy colour, with another yellow light reflecting from the walls. I walk down the hallway, passing multiple locked doors before arriving at some sort of balcony, overlooking a pool room. Again, this room seems off. It looks lifeless and unused. It feels like a room that's trying to mimic a public pool, almost like it's AI generated. The room design doesn't make much sense. The balcony doesn't make any sense either. It's just not practical. There's a sense of a disconnection from reality. Did I fall into another universe from that drop? I jump down into this mysterious pool room. The room is made up of poolside lounging chairs, tiny pool areas, beach balls, and these weird hose-like things that are shooting out a constant flow of water. This room feels dreamlike. Just like the room before, something's missing, but I can't quite tell what that something is. It's just uncomfortable. But why? In one corner of the room I notice a locked door, and a hose spraying water in a different direction. I interact with the hose, causing it to turn and break the lock on the door somehow. I go through the door and end up in another small room. This time the room's decor is sky themed. A skybox, if you will. Again, a pool in the middle and lounge chairs around the side. But there's toilets here. That doesn't make much sense. Why would the only entrance to this area be some toilets? I mean, there is the balcony area, right? But that's a very impractical and strange way to enter the room. I walk into the men's toilet. The men's toilet door leads me to a hallway. The colour scheme has drastically changed from kind of strange fleshy tones to more modern minimalist tones. Grey, white and black with a patterned carpet. Kind of corporate office type of aesthetics. The lights are white now and they don't project a heavy yellow hue. The buzz from the lights though is distractingly loud. I make my way through the toilets and I pass a locker room. There's nothing really to take note of, just lockers, but again I can't shake this feeling that something is missing. It starts to play on my mind a little bit. What is it that's missing? I feel like I should know, like it's right there in front of my face and I'm just not seeing it. I'm met with another hallway. The colours change again. Now the wall is more of a beige colour. The hallway is very long and unnecessarily large with an arched ceiling. A completely different aesthetic and layout design again. It's so strange. I continue onward, finding a small room with nothing but one chair inside. I carry on and I find some stairs up to an elevator. I walk inside the elevator and I press the button. I'm met with music. It's a shopping centre, this deep underground. There's a seating area with some sort of small building. There's two huge escalators leading to the ground floor. The ground floor is a huge open space with different elevator doors. Like the pool room, this feels more like a huge room that's mimicking a shopping centre. That was the intro to Anemoiapolis. It definitely feels unique. No action, no epic gunfight, no terrifying chase. No introduction to our main character, nothing. Just pure atmosphere and isolation. It's not often I see a game that is built purely on atmosphere alone. I'm sure they do exist, but they are rare. This game manages to have you feeling on edge and concerned even with a complete lack of enemy or threat. After thinking for a while, I realised something. I believe that this game manages to tap into some sort of natural fear that we have as a species. As human beings, we have primordial fears. We naturally fear darkness, heights, predators, death and isolation. These fears are incredibly deep-rooted due to our innate need for survival. These are fears that have been passed down through the generations and have been embedded in our collective unconscious. This game and many liminal space images seem to play on a few of these fears. Many of them include darkness, many of them include heights, but most importantly, they all include isolation. Almost every single liminal space image, video or game that I have seen look like they are disconnected from reality, like some faraway place that mimics the place that we know and love, but they are not those places. Shopping malls, car parks, hotels and playgrounds are just a few of the everyday places that I see in these images constantly, but they never look quite like the ones we know. They always look off. I think a big part of the fear that I and many others feel when seeing these spaces is due to the innate fear we have as a species, the fear of isolation. And what could be more isolated than a desolate old playground located somewhere outside of our plane of reality? One aspect of Anemoiapolis that really gets me is the use of impossible architecture. It plays with your head and it has you guessing yourself. Wait, did I come in that way? Wait, did I just make 5 right turns? How is that possible? This has been a very small niche of horror that I have loved ever since I first played Layers of Fear, and I think it really goes well with the whole liminal space concept. It just reminds you that you are not on the same plane of existence that you were before you entered this place. You are somewhere else now, and you are alone. There's a kind of paranormal aspect to the game, without pushing ghosts or demons in your face or having you escape them while defenseless, which may be a scary experience in its own right. but it's all been done before. Anemoiapolis manages to invoke a more natural feeling of fear by playing with your mind instead of relying on the instinctual reactions to screamers or chasers, and I respect that. The environments you see are environments you are probably quite familiar with. We've all seen a shopping centre before, right? We've all seen swimming pools, but something here isn't quite right. Something is missing. What could that something be? It doesn't seem immediately obvious what is actually missing, or what is causing the feeling of unease, and as much of an oxymoron as this is, that, for me, is a big part of what creates the eerie feeling. It's not knowing what it is that's wrong, just knowing that something feels wrong. It's almost like the game is simulating anxiety itself. As an anxious person myself, I experience the vicious cycle of anxiety all the time. That feeling of something not quite being right. Then it's that feeling that causes itself to become stronger as you try to work out why you're feeling like this, thus creating a sort of feedback loop of worry. I know what you're thinking. People. It's people that are missing, but I believe it's more than that. And I believe that Anemoiapolis really plays on this. When you walk into a shopping centre, you are not only met with people, you are met with emotions. You're met with laughter, small talk, smiles, music, families, couples, and children. You are met with energy. A busy shopping centre is a pretty big display of human nature. The highs, the lows, the quiet, the loud, the happy, the sad. But now, all that is gone. It's been reduced to nothing more than the cold physical environment. I believe that the feeling of unease that we feel from liminal spaces is the feeling of being stripped of the human experience. As human beings, we are social creatures. We rely on people. We fear isolation. We rely on the shopping centre experience that I just spoke about. The highs, the lows, the laughter, and the small talk. The energy that we feel when we are around other humans. When all that is taken away and we see an environment that seems to be completely disconnected from that experience, it seems to invoke the feeling of being lost and disconnected, mixed with a feeling of familiarity. Thank you very much for watching and getting to the end of this video. I'm very new to this, and the reaction I got from my first video was incredible. I was genuinely expecting my first video to be lost in the sea of YouTube with no views, but it got thousands of views. It got a shit ton of wonderful comments and so many likes. I'm extremely grateful for everyone who watched, liked, commented and subscribed. It really did motivate me, and it got me excited to make this video too. So I really do hope you enjoyed this one. You guys are the best. Bye.